They left me at an airport when I was 5. 20 years later, they sued me for the $5 million my adoptive father left me. My first memory is of my mother's back as she walked away, leaving me alone in a sea of strangers. I remember the cold of the terminal floor and the bright, confusing lights. A security guard found me, a small, crying boy clutching a worn-out teddy bear. He asked me where my parents were. I just pointed at the endless hallway where my mother had disappeared. That was the day my life split into two. The before, a hazy, confusing time, and the after, the day I met the man who would become my real father. His name was Arthur. He was a kind-faced businessman who often traveled through that same airport. He saw me with the social workers, a tiny, lost soul. Something in my eyes must have spoken to him. He started visiting me at the children's home, bringing me books and toys. He told me stories of far-off lands, and promised one day he'd take me to see them. It took a year, but he finally adopted me. He gave me a new home, a new life, and a new name, Leo. Arthur was my everything. He taught me how to ride a bike, how to read a balance sheet, and most importantly, how to be a good person. He never hid the truth about my past. He told me that some people make choices we can't understand, but that doesn't define our worth. He was a self-made man who built a successful tech company from nothing. He always said, "Leo, your past doesn't determine your future. Your choices do." He raised me to be strong, resilient, and independent. The memories of my biological parents faded, replaced by years of love, laughter, and unwavering support from Arthur. When I was 25, Arthur passed away from a sudden heart attack. The world I knew shattered. He was my rock, my guide, my dad in every sense of the word. At the reading of his will, I discovered he had left his entire estate to me, including his company and a personal fortune of around $5 million. His lawyer, Mr. Harrison, handed me a letter from Arthur. In it, he wrote, "Leo, my son, I trust you to carry on my legacy. Use this to build a life you're proud of. You were the greatest gift of my life." I cried, holding the letter to my chest. I felt the immense weight of his love and his expectations. Just a week after the funeral, as I was trying to navigate my grief and new responsibilities, Mr. Harrison called me. His voice was grave. "Leo, we have a problem. Your biological parents have filed a lawsuit." I was stunned. "What? On what grounds?" He sighed. "They claim parental rights and are suing you for the inheritance. They're demanding the $5 million. A cold fury I'd never felt before washed over me. The people who had discarded me like trash were now crawling back. Not for me, but for the money. Their names were Richard and Sarah. Seeing their faces in the legal documents was like looking at ghosts. They looked older, worn down by life, but I recognized the woman who had walked away without a backward glance. Their claim was outrageous. They argued that, since they never officially terminated their parental rights, they were entitled to my inheritance as my legal guardians. They painted a picture of themselves as poor, desperate parents who had made a terrible mistake and had been searching for me ever since. It was a complete lie. The media latched onto the story. Orphan millionaire sued by long-lost parents. My life became a public spectacle. Reporters camped outside my house. I was hounded everywhere I went. Richard and Sarah gave tearful interviews, spinning a web of deceit about their supposed regret and undying love for me. They looked like victims. I looked like a cold-hearted son who refused to forgive his repentant parents. The court of public opinion was turning against me. The stress was immense. I felt like that 5-year-old boy again, lost and alone. But then I remembered Arthur's words. Your choices determine your future. He didn't raise me to be a victim. He raised me to be a fighter. I met with my legal team. I don't just want to win, I told them. I want to expose them for who they really are. I want justice, not just for me, but for Arthur's memory. We decided to fight back, not just in court, but in the open. I hired a private investigator to dig into their lives for the past 20 years. I knew if they had been searching for me, there would be a trail. The investigator's findings were damning. Richard and Sarah had never filed a missing persons report. They hadn't contacted any authorities or private agencies. Instead, they had moved to another state just a month after abandoning me. They had a history of petty crime, debt, and gambling addictions. They had seen the news of Arthur's death and my inheritance, and that's when their parental love suddenly reignited. It was never about me. It was only ever about the money. The day of the trial arrived. The courtroom was packed. Richard and Sarah sat across from me, their faces masks of feigned sorrow. Their lawyer began, painting a picture of their deep remorse. Then it was my turn to take the stand. I looked directly at the jury, at the judge, and then at the two people who gave me life only to throw it away. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. My voice was calm and steady. My first memory is of being abandoned, I began. I recounted the day at the airport, the fear, the confusion. Then I spoke of Arthur. I told them about the man who chose me, who loved me, who taught me the meaning of family. I held up the worn-out teddy bear that I had kept all these years. This was all I had left of my old life. But a new life was given to me by a man who owed me nothing, a man who became my father. Then, my lawyer presented the evidence from the private investigator. The room was silent as he laid out their history of deceit, their gambling debts, and the complete absence of any attempt to find me over 20 years. He presented their credit card statements, which showed casino trips and lavish spending, not a desperate search for a lost son. Their carefully constructed facade crumbled. Sarah started weeping, but this time no one was buying it. Richard just stared at the floor, defeated. Finally, I looked at them. You are not my parents. You are my donors. My father was Arthur Jensen. He taught me about integrity, love, and responsibility, words you clearly don't understand. I turned back to the judge. They are not here for a son. They are here for a lottery ticket. To grant them even a single dollar would be a desecration of my father's memory and the love he gave me. The judge's verdict was swift and decisive. The case was dismissed. He called their lawsuit frivolous and predatory. He even ordered them to pay my legal fees. As they were escorted out of the courtroom, their faces were a mixture of shock and rage. There was no remorse. Justice had been served. After the trial, I stood outside the courthouse, breathing in the fresh air. I felt a sense of closure I never knew I needed. I had not only protected my father's legacy, but I had also stood up for that little boy left in the airport. That night, I went to Arthur's favorite spot, a bluff overlooking the city. I looked up at the stars and whispered, "We did it, Dad. We did it." The anger was gone, replaced by peace. My revenge wasn't about destroying them. It was about honoring the man who saved me and finally taking control of my own story. Thank you for watching. If my story touched you, please like this video and subscribe for more content. Remember, family isn't just about blood. It's about who shows up when you need them most.